What is happening, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at the complete Kirby War and Romance Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So, stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market on May 5th, and then a couple of weeks later in the book market. And speaking of the direct market, this is the cover to the direct market. On the left is the cover to the standard edition. So as you can tell, they separated the war and romance aspect on the covers. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this, because I know there was a lot of confusion with this particular omnibus, but rest assured, it is an omnibus. I love that. I love Kirby with the crown. He was the king after all. The complete Kirby War and Romance. And then you have, I'm not sure if the direct market and the standard edition will vary with the characters that are down here. I assume the standard edition will have Sgt Fury maybe, or one of the Howling Commandos. But this is the cover to the standard edition. So maybe the covers will be flipped around with the standard edition as well. Let's take a look under that dust jacket. Here's what the front board looks like. The spine. So that is Sgt Fury down there. Furry. Uncanny Omar talk pretty one day. Now, let's take a closer look at the book and talk about what's collected in here. So part of the confusion with this book, love that green bookend pages, was the fact that it kept going back between an oversized hardcover and an omnibus. That is gorgeous. I'm going to say something here that is probably not a very popular opinion when we get to the love part of the stories. By the way, here are all the credits, not only Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Larry Lieber, but also the inkers and the letterers. And here is your table of contents. So these are collected not in publishing order, but in the order that the stories were first presented to the publisher. So, for example, they're all numbered. I'm not sure if y'all remember the Monster Bus books or the Steve Ditko books, the Omnibus. They all start with like little numbers and letters at the bottom, and that's the way these are done. So Jack Kirby sometimes just did the cover, so it's just the cover that is collected here. For example, on page 542 is Sgt Fury and his Howling Commandos 14, and then 543 is issue number 15. So it's not the complete issue unless he worked on the issue itself. So what you're not going to see in here is issue number 26, where you find out how Nick Fury loses his eye. Not like the movies at all. Now, the other thing that I noticed that they started doing is you get this right here. These comics are presented as originally created. They contain outdated depictions. Nothing has been edited out or altered. It's all the way it was originally published. You know what? Give me a label like that. I'm happy with something like that. That's just my personal opinion, and I just want the comic book the way that it originally came out. No edits, no censoring, anything like that, because, you know, these were products of their time. And I think that's what most publishers are starting to do. I know Dark Horse has done it in the past with Astro Boy, and Marvel has done it in a few collections, but that's just something that they have to do nowadays. Okay, so one thing you're going to notice here is with the War comics and the Love comics is that the color restoration is amazing on the book, on the actual issues. They're beautifully restored. Much like the Golden Age books, there's a lot of time and love that go into making these books. Now, the other thing you're going to notice is, if you're a purist, of course, are the kind of modernization colors to the covers. Just the covers, not the internal artwork. So let me use an example. Yeah, like this is a perfect example here to the cover to Battle number 67. You can tell that it's modernized colors by the shading and the different tones that is used just on the green instead of just one flat tone. So, like I said, I don't know if that bothers some people, but I did want to point that out. I believe all the covers are like that, or at least from the stories that I've read. And speaking of reading, this is a pretty interesting range that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, of course, and Larry Lieber were doing at the time. this is right before the Age of Heroes, so it's stories from 1957, like the late 50s to early 60s, to the dawn of the Marvel era, the Silver Age era. And it's interesting to see how a lot of it kind of evolves into the drama that is in those superhero comics. Like a lot of these love stories, I can kind of see that happening and being the driving force of the Fantastic Four. I love this story. And basically, most of these stories collected in here, as far as the love stories, they're about 6-8 pages long. And they always, it's about heartbreak or somebody liking somebody else. They're not liked back, and they're ignoring the person that they should be looking at. Things like that. Teenage romance, right? Like this girl, she's all snooty. She's playing hard to get, but she plays a little too hard to get. So old dude that she's after, he's like, nah, man, this brunette, she's real cute. I'm going to go with her. Have a good day, Blondie. You should have hollered at your boy when you had the chance. See? Things like that. That stuff's not outdated. We still do things like that. Not just women, all of us. We play hard to get. So there's lessons like that. I think one of my favorite stories in here is about a lady that goes to see her doctor. She's going under surgery. She's really nervous, and her surgeon is this gorgeous guy. He looks like a movie actor. And she's like, "Doctor, I'm so scared." And he's like, "Don't worry, baby. I got this. You're not my first patient." And after the operation goes through, she goes to see him a couple months later, and he doesn't look anything like the way she remembers, because she thought of him as this like movie star, gorgeous man, but he's really like this balding dude, a little bit older, and it's not that good looking. But she's like, I want to get to know this guy more, because that's the way I will always see him. And I thought that was a pretty cute little lesson to learn about inner beauty. That was only 4 pages. But I'm going to say something that is unorthodox, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I've never been the biggest fan of Jack Kirby's ladies. Whether it was Sue Storm, Jean Grey, any of the characters in the Avengers like the Wasp, I don't know what it was about them. They were there. They never stood out. But I don't know what it was about this volume. Maybe it's me getting older. I'm in my 40s now. I'm like, what's up, girl? Okay. I see them high cheekbones. I don't know what it was. I swear it might be the inker. I really don't know. But there was something beautiful about these women's that I normally would not have found in pages of Fantastic Four or the Avengers or X-Men. I don't know. This is like the first time I've seen him draw. Like, wow. Maybe I'm just getting older. Maybe my taste is changing. Maybe I want me a Donna Reed. Anyway, it's something I've noticed. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below if you find his women really attractive, or if you never did. But I this is the first time that I'm like, wow, it's a really pretty lady. And there's a lot of them here. All right. We cannot talk about this particular omnibus without talking about this here. And this is Sgt Fury and his Howling Commandos, issue number 1. So, long before, well, not long before, a few months later, actually, he appeared in Fantastic Four. But before he had an eye patch, Sgt Fury appeared with his Howling Commandos through the pages of Sgt Fury and his Howling Commandos. And issue number 1 is collected in here in its entirety. Or all the parts that Jack Kirby did. And it's interesting because he had been wanting to work on this book for a long time. So much so that he pitched it over to Joe Sinnott, and then they waited a little while. And this is the first time they've worked together too, Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott, through the pages of this particular omnibus. By the way, something I overlooked, and I'm so sorry I did. There's a nice introduction by Tom Scioli, or Scully. Sorry, I know I'm butchering his name. But he's the one that did the Fantastic Four grand design. He's the one that worked on the Transformers versus G.I. Joe, amazing crossover. He is a huge Jack Kirby fan, probably the biggest Jack Kirby fan. He actually did a book on Jack the King Kirby. But he has this nice introduction. It's a 4-page introduction talking about the stories, talking about things I didn't even know about, such as a couple of these stories are Jack Kirby himself during his years in active duty and how he survived. That's very cool. He does talk about a lot of the love inspirations, and then of course Sgt Fury and his Howling Commandos. And again, just to show you that they use modern colors for the covers, but the internal artwork is as close as you're going to get to the original colors published. There's a lot of restoration. And this kind of makes me wish that they had done a Sgt Fury and his Howling Commandos omnibus. That would be cool. Yeah, so he's a character that appeared later on in the pages of Fantastic Four. I think he was a CIA operative in Fantastic Four 21. With an eye patch, eventually became a super spy. Or they gave him that background as a super spy and agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But long before that, he was fighting Nazis. He was fighting in Japan with his Howling Commandos. Look at that, weapons of war. That's awesome. But this is what the internal artwork looks like. Let's look in the back here for some extras. Okay, I had to stop in this one because this is collected in here. The classic team-up of Captain America and Sgt Fury and his Howling Commandos. Oh yeah, Bucky's there too. Now, let's look at the extras. So these aren't extras, but this is what I was talking about, that they just collect the pages that Jack Kirby worked on. So even if it's just 2 pages, or even if it's just the cover. Those are all collected in here. Even if Jack Kirby just did part of the cover, and somebody else worked on the background. Here are original pages. Yeah, see, it's not the colors, it's actually his art. Like I said, it might be the inks. Gorgeous. Maybe it's the eyelashes. But there's a lot of original pages in here. This is all Jack Kirby, Joe Sinnott, Vince Colletta, all his classic collaborators. Some really nice pages, original artwork. Alright, I'm not gonna flip through all of them. Let's look in the back here. Okay, I do have to show some Sgt Fury. Of course, this is war and romance. 2 opposites of the spectrum. This is what he was doing. I remember him doing, like, the very first time I remember him doing this is through the pages of the Fantastic Four, using photos. And sometimes drawing on top of those photos. There's house ads. Then, of course, you got the Marvel Masterwork. See, so it's not colors like that. It's more touch-up colors like this. And then this is a t-shirt, I believe, based on Sgt Fury number 12. Let's talk about the build. So this book has 592 pages. It retails for $125. Here is what the eye looks like. It's a really nice eye for a book that's less than 600 pages. As far as the paper quality, this is printed at the Donnelly printer. It's nice glossy paper. Not as thick as it used to be, but still nice paper. It's not thin. The artwork does not come through from one side to the other. And that, as they say, is that. When this book comes out, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and the page count, and the build of this particular omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking it up, if you've never heard of it, if this is a book that went under the radar for you. Well, I hope I was able to bring it up to the spotlight for a lot of people that didn't know exactly what was contained in this omnibus. Also, let me know if you would be interested in something like the complete Kirby Westerns. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We put out videos every day, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. Depends on how crazy we get around here. More importantly, everyone, please stay healthy, stay safe, and much love.